Charles Boney is serving a 225-year prison sentence for the murders of Kim, Jill, and Brad Cam. But nearly 18 years after their deaths, he still claims he isn't the killer. I sat down with Charles Boney in prison, where he reveals his story of what happened that night, his message for David Cam, and the reason he says he's now a changed man. It's a horrific crime that still haunts our community. A mother and her children murdered in their Georgetown, Indiana garage on September 28, 2000. Then there were the trials and the acquittal. David Cam, a former Indiana state trooper, spent 13 years in prison. He was convicted twice of killing his wife Kim and their children, 7-year-old Brad and 5-year-old Jill. Both of those convictions were overturned. Then jurors found him not guilty in a third trial in 2013, and Cam was a free man.
I have no comment.
Charles Boney, identified by prosecutors as a co-conspirator, was convicted in a separate trial and is serving a life sentence for the murders.
There's a lot of people that have wanted the worst for me in this case. I'm a little emotional right now, but I can talk about those things.
Boney started writing WDRB earlier this year. He sent us letters telling us about 2 organizations he started in prison. We reached out for an interview and he agreed, writing, quote, "There is no question I won't answer." So we sat down with Boney inside the state prison in Pendleton, Indiana.
Thanks for being agreeable to the interview.
Yes, ma'am.
He presented himself as a changed man, now a devout Christian.
This interview that I'm doing isn't about me at all. I don't want anyone to think, oh, he's painting a picture of himself that's better than what we think of him, or he's trying to gain favor with the public opinion or whatever. It's about my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Boney says while behind bars, he founded the group Badged Lives Matter.
Badged Lives Matter is an initiative to teach, and that's the key word, to teach young, impressionable men how to properly respect authority.
And another organization he calls FEW, Fellas Empowering Women.
So you know this is going to be a tough pill for some people to swallow, right? You know
Oh, absolutely.
that some people, they are going to have a hard time believing that you have nothing but respect for women and nothing but respect for law enforcement. You are convicted of murdering not just a woman, but a mother and her 2 children. So why should people believe you?
That's a good question. I regret being involved in this case. I really wish I could go back in time, but I don't regret the time that I have. I wouldn't change it because it's made me better. It's helped me grow. If I hadn't have come back to prison, I wouldn't know Christ like I know him.
People have such curiosity about the murders of Jill, Brad, and Kim Cam because there are so many unanswered questions still. David Cam is free. You are here in prison. Can you tell us what happened on the night of September 28th, 2000, the night that Jill, Kim, and Brad Cam were murdered?
We're clearly both there, and one of us is the killer. David Cam is the killer.
Boney starts out by telling us why he says he initially lied to investigators.
I didn't tell the truth about everything because I wanted to stay completely out of the mix. I didn't want to go back to prison. As I told them the truths about the story, they didn't believe it. So then I started just telling them things that I thought that they could believe. At the end of the day, I've told, I think, altogether like 5 different versions.
So tell us now, what is the truth? What is the truth?
On September 28th, I took a second untraceable weapon to the Cam residence. David Cam showed up. We were talking outside of his house. His wife, Kim Cam, and the 2 children, Brad and Jill, pulled up in I believe it was a black Bronco. As the garage door lifted up, she drove in. I seen her brake lights come on, and then he went into the garage, and then I heard arguing, and I heard a no, and then I heard a daddy no, and then I heard pop, pop, pop. My sweatshirt was not tucked under his son. He staged that. Kim Cam, his wife, was not undressed at all. I learned from television and in my discovery that someone had removed her pants.
When you testified, you claimed that David Cam tried to turn the gun on you and the gun jammed.
It either jammed or it was out of projectiles, out of bullets.
And tell me how the shoes ended up on the Bronco, or how your palm print ended up on the Bronco.
Well, I clearly leaned in to look to see the Brad and Jill. Once I went in after David Cam, after he tried to fire a shot at me, I ran in after him. I remember tripping over shoes. I remember touching things. And then I heard him say, "You did this." And I heard him rummaging around in his house. And I just figured he was probably getting a weapon. And at the time, I didn't have my own weapon with me. So I beat feet. I got out of there.
Someone is lying. Someone's not telling the truth. Yet here you are, and David Cam is a free man.
People lie, and I'm no different. I lied.
Boney was the prosecution's star witness in David Cam's third murder trial. He told the jury the same version of events.
I can tell you why David Cam's a free man, and I'm not trying to use the race card. I'm clearly an African American in a predominantly white area, and I do believe that. I think race played a big part in it.
Can I get your reaction to David Cam's acquittal? I know you testified in his third trial. What is your reaction to him being a free man?
It's all about freedom. That's what he wanted. He got it. And I can't be bitter about it. At the end of the day, David Cam has to answer to God. People get away with stuff all the time.
Now Boney spends his time behind bars studying the evidence from his own case.
I work on my case absolutely every day. There's no days off. I'll say boldly that I will be out one day. I might be 80. I might be 75, 60, who knows? 225 years is not in my future. The good Lord has something else planned. He has something in store for me.
If David Cam is watching this interview, what would you want him to know?
That I forgive you. All he has to do is step up and do the right thing, go to the prosecutor and say, "Hey, you can't charge me again. This man should be home with his family. I'm with mine. He should be home with his."
Do you think about Kim, Jill, and Brad Cam?
Oh, this is like, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about the case. I see them every day. I have a picture of them on my wall. I think about them. I pray about them.
Part of the deal is Victim Services has to contact victims and let them know that we are talking to you, and let them know that we're doing an interview with you. What do you want your victims to know about Charles Boney now?
Well, first of all, I don't have victims because I'm not the one that pulled the trigger. So I don't feel responsible for anyone's deaths. I want to make that very clear. Your killer is walking out there free. He's out there with you. He's out there to date anyone he wants. I think he'll kill again. There are 3 beautiful people that are no longer here with us. And like I said, I'm not responsible for their actual deaths, but I am responsible in the fact that I didn't do anything about it. I could have easily called 911. I could have went straight to the police department after leaving there and say, "Hey, you know what? I went to sell this guy a gun and he killed his entire family. I just came from there. I need help. I know I got to go back to prison, but so what?" It would have been a very different story. In fact, I'd be just now getting out of prison.
Let me ask you a direct question. Is this an act?
Is this an act?
Is this an act, or is this the real Charles Boney?
America loves a comeback. They do. No matter how bad you are, no matter what you've ever done, America loves to see people change their lives for the better. Some people are a little less forgiving than others. I mean, look what they did to my buddy Pete Rose. He just gambled a little bit and they kept him out of the Hall of Fame. Look how innocent that is. This is a murder case. 2 beautiful children and their beautiful mom. Way bigger than gambling or something like that. So I don't expect people to be forgiving and to look past me and think, "Oh, he's a great guy. Yeah, let's write him," or whatever. It's not going to be that easy. But then again, I'm not looking for it either. All I'm trying to do is impress my Lord and Savior. That's all that matters. And no, it's not an act.
Charles Boney also spoke to me about one of his biggest regrets, who comes to visit him in prison, and even addressed his so-called foot fetish that became a part of David Cam's defense. See more of our interview on WDRB.com.